What if you could watch a butterfly at the end of its life crawl back into its chrysalis, rewind its own biology, and emerge once more as a caterpillar to live its entire life cycle again and again forever? It sounds like pure fantasy, the stuff of myth and science fiction, but in the silent, sun-dappled waters of our world's oceans, a creature does exactly this. It has achieved what every king, every alchemist, and every modern billionaire has desperately sought: true biological immortality. This is not a metaphor. This is not an exaggeration. This is the naked, staggering science of Turritopsis dohrnii, the immortal jellyfish, and the way it cheats death forever challenges our most fundamental understanding of life itself. To understand why this jellyfish is so revolutionary, we first need to understand what immortality really means in the animal kingdom. We often hear about biologically immortal creatures. The Greenland shark, for instance, may live for 500 years. The humble hydra, a tiny freshwater polyp, shows no signs of aging due to its powerful regenerative stem cells. But these creatures are long-lived. They are negligibly senescent. They are not technically immortal. Injury, disease, or predation will still eventually kill them. Then we have the standard jellyfish life cycle, which is strange enough on its own. Most jellyfish, including Turritopsis, are part of the cnidarian family. Their life begins not with a birth, but with a settlement. A free-swimming larva called a planula attaches to a rock or a shell. There, it transforms into a sedentary feeding structure called a polyp. Think of it as a tiny tubular anemone. This polyp then engages in a process called strobilation. It essentially clones itself, stacking and releasing tiny discs that swim away as juvenile jellyfish, known as medusae. This is the familiar pulsating bell-shaped form. The medusa grows, matures, reproduces, and then, like all living things, it ages, weakens, and dies. This is the end, or it is for every other species on the planet. But for Turritopsis dohrnii, death is not an endpoint. It is merely a suggestion. When this particular jellyfish faces mortal threat, starvation, physical injury, or simply the ravages of old age, it doesn't resign itself to fate. It does the impossible. It initiates a biological process so profound it can only be described as a reversal of time. The aging, complex medusa begins to melt away its very self. Its tentacles retract and are reabsorbed. Its bell shrinks and collapses. It sinks to the seafloor, and in a matter of days, it transforms not into a corpse, but back into its juvenile polyp stage. It is a perfect biological reset. It has quite literally reversed its own development to become young again, ready to start its life cycle anew. This is not death and reincarnation. This is the same individual organism refusing to die. So how is this even possible? The secret doesn't lie in magic, but in cellular plasticity, an ability so radical it borders on science fiction. The process is called transdifferentiation.
In virtually every complex animal, cells have specific jobs. A skin cell is a skin cell. A muscle cell is a muscle cell. They are differentiated. They can divide to make more of their own kind, but they cannot simply turn into a different type of cell. Our bodies are rigidly organized. Turritopsis dohrnii throws that rulebook into the ocean current. When the immortal jellyfish decides to reset, its specialized cells, the cells of its bell, its digestive system, even its rudimentary nerves, do something extraordinary. They lose their identity. They de-differentiate. They revert to a state akin to a stem cell, a blank slate bursting with potential. Think of it as a skilled architect, a plumber, and an electrician all walking back into a school, forgetting their trades and becoming students again, ready to learn any new profession. From this pool of rejuvenated cellular raw material, the body then re-differentiates. These blank slate cells reorganize, communicate, and rebuild an entirely different body plan. They formed the stalk and tentacles of a new polyp. It's the ultimate biological recycling program, where the blueprint for an entire organism is not just stored in DNA, but can be accessed and executed from any point in its life. But the mechanism goes even deeper. Recent genetic research has pinpointed key players in this miracle. Scientists like Dr. Shin Kubota of Kyoto University, who has cultured these jellyfish for years, have observed that the process is regulated by a master switch. Studies comparing the genes of Turritopsis to its mortal cousin, Turritopsis rubra, reveal unique activity in genes related to DNA repair and stem cell renewal. Two sets of genes are particularly crucial. First, genes that silence the aging program and promote cellular youth, like those that manage telomerase activity, the enzyme that protects the ends of our chromosomes, which normally shorten as we age. Second, genes that actively dismantle the old cellular architecture, allowing for the transdifferentiation process to begin cleanly. The jellyfish doesn't just stop aging, it actively commands its cells to tear down and rebuild. This leads to the pivotal question: what triggers this incredible event? It's not a conscious choice, but a sophisticated survival response to environmental stress. The primary triggers are physical damage, a tear in the bell, a loss of tentacles, starvation, a severe lack of nutrients, sudden changes in salinity or temperature, disease, or infection. Faced with any of these mortal crises, the jellyfish's systems detect the severe stress. A cascade of biochemical signals floods its simple body, likely involving reactive oxygen species and specific stress response pathways. This signal flips the immortal switch. Instead of activating a last-ditch repair for its current form, it activates the ultimate contingency plan, the total biological reboot.
And the implications of this are mind-bending. In laboratory settings, a single Turritopsis dohrnii has been observed to cycle from medusa to polyp and back to medusa dozens of times in a row, showing no decline in health or vitality. It appears that, barring predation or sudden catastrophic destruction, there is no internal limit to how many times it can repeat this cycle. It is, for all intents and purposes, biologically immortal. A predator or a fatal accident can kill it, but old age cannot. This is where the true profundity of the immortal jellyfish lies. It's not just a neat trick, it represents a fundamental defiance of one of life's oldest rules, the arrow of time, pointed irreversibly from birth to death. Turritopsis dohrnii has found a trap door in its own biology. While other creatures fight mortality by building stronger defenses, living longer, or producing more offspring, the immortal jellyfish employs a strategy of ultimate retreat. When the game of survival turns against it, it doesn't try to win the table, it resets the entire system. It sheds complexity to return to a simpler, safer, more resilient form. The polyp, anchored to the seafloor, is a survival pod, waiting out the crisis until conditions are favorable to produce medusae once more. This ability redefines what an individual even is. Is the original medusa the same self as the polyp it becomes, and the new medusa that polyp later buds off? Philosophically, it's a puzzle. Biologically, the line of living cellular material is unbroken. It is the same life, persisting. The climax of the story isn't about finding a fountain of youth for humans. Our biology is far too complex and fixed for such a simple transplant of ideas. The true climax is the realization that the potential for such immortality was embedded in the code of life all along. In a small, translucent jellyfish, we see a forgotten path evolution once took, a proof of concept that nature, in its boundless ingenuity, solved the problem of aging not by building a sturdier machine, but by inventing a machine that could reassemble itself from its own parts indefinitely. It teaches us that the boundaries of life are more fluid than we ever imagined. Death is not a mandatory law of biology for all creatures. It is a strategy that most species have adopted. Turritopsis dohrnii simply adopted a different one. It chose not to die. If your mind is reeling from the reality of a truly immortal animal, you're not alone. The natural world is filled with stories that defy belief. To discover why deep-sea creatures grow so terrifyingly huge, or how penguins survive Antarctica's deadliest winter, dive into the playlist on screen now. Subscribe to Earth Unfiltered and hit the notification bell. We explore the shocking truths of biology, where the facts are always stranger than fiction. Thanks for watching.